Hi, Matthias. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good. I am wondering if people will join at the right time because of this daylight saving time ended in US last weekend or something, or previous weekend. So people may have confused the start time, except us. Looks like we are on top of this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we had the issue on Monday that Cameron joined when we were ending the meeting, so he had missed it by 1 hour.
Yeah.
I see James coming in up those.
Hi, James.
Hello. Almost got. I almost missed the time, but managed to see it just then.
Yeah, it's always like this on this after daylight saving time. You know, you either have the meeting or you don't. See if we can make 2-3 more minutes, and I don't want to. Hey, Tracy. I don't know if I should do a channel in Slack to spam everyone.
Why not? I'm pleased now I've actually started the use case. It's actually started.
I saw Strachan's blog post. I thought, oh, we'll just pull it out of there and stick
Pretty
it
much
in.
it's exactly what I've intended doing.
Yes, no need to work any harder than you have to. That's good.
It says notify 82 people across 9 time zones. And I hope no one is sleeping. Let's see. So while we wait, Tracy, you know, as you mentioned on Slack, to meet and go through these missing chapters in white paper.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe if more people joins, we can ask anyone who wants to join to that, you know, meeting. So we work on it with more people, because Oliver commented on one of the sections today, which got me interested. Okay, there are probably more people who want to, who may prefer focused time on this, like an hour until the end of November. So I will propose that.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So, hi, James. Oh, I already said James. Jeremy, sorry. I am tired.
Hi there.
So if you can add your name to the HackMD document while we wait 2-3 more minutes, we use the time.
Sorry, I didn't quite get that.
Yeah, just participants, you know, if you are in the meeting, you can add your name on the participants list. That's what I was asking.
That's the HackMD thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me go see if I can find that.
Or I can add you, Jeremy, if you want.
Oh, that's fine too. I'm multitasking. I'm in 2 other IRC meetings at the same time as this call most of the time. So sorry.
Yeah, let me put your name there. Now we have more people. And then we can slowly start with the agenda and then look at action items. So the agenda is pretty similar to the previous meeting. We start with action item review, followed by recap on interoperability white paper. Because we have a new case study from Oliver, he may want to quickly summarize what he contributed there, and then we can talk about remaining chapters. And then it would be good to continue on the standardized metadata discussion we had during the last meeting. And as I noted, there is a link where we can start working on it on HackMD, but I haven't seen any updates there. And finally, Ortelius presentation, which I unfortunately can't see Tracy Regan or Steve in the meeting. Well, they may join on the way. Okay, so action item review. The first action item was on me to create a HackMD document for the metadata work. Well, let me share my screen. Sorry. You can see the screen now, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. So the document is there, and let me open the page. And it's just basically, I put the names of volunteers like Tracy, Miranda, Steve Taylor, and James Strachan, and the other like introduction scope TBD. And I tried to capture the things people mentioned, like what Ramin mentioned about what they have in eBay, this eBay metadata. I think Trace Regan mentioned Ortelius use hermetic manifest Helm chart, and then tecton chains. Christy, I think she mentioned this together with in toto. So these were the existing efforts referred during that discussion. So this is the document. If you want to use this, feel free to do that. We can connect this back to SIG repo as well, so we version control it in the repository too. And yeah, that's the action item. Simply, I close that one. We will talk about this topic again. And the next action item is on me to sync with Oliver on case study for white paper, which we did, and then we will talk about that when we come to the white paper topic. So I close that one. And the other action item is on Ramin, and I checked with Ramin, and Ramin asked this internally, like trying to get permission, like that type of official permission stuff. So it will happen, but it may take 3 weeks until we see the example manifest from eBay for metadata topic. So we keep that open. Tracy Regan and Steve Taylor to do Ortelius presentation demo. I still don't see them, so we keep that action item open. And finally, storing James Strachan's Tecton Jenkins X slides on presentations repository, which is done as well. So closing this one too. I hope I haven't forgotten any action item. Okay, those were the action items. And the next topic is the white paper. So let me
Hey, Fatih, just before we get into that, I want to just bring up the meeting timing again.
Yeah.
Just because, like, I think by keeping it on UTC, we've effectively moved it an hour earlier for everyone. But I have concerns that that makes it difficult for our friends on Pacific time to attend, given it's 7 a.m. And I know it's already challenging for Ramin to make the previous time. So, yeah, I mean, we can see how it goes, but I'd like to suggest we go back to the, like, yeah, the problem with UTC is it changes half the time of the year, and it's not like relative to everyone else. We've all shifted the meeting an hour earlier, but I propose we go back to the original time.
Well, given that the majority of people in this meeting are from Europe, I think we can quickly take a vote here and say, yeah, it's okay or not okay for people from Europe, and then we can just send a notification to everyone and update the invitation. But I think we could stick to UTC again still.
Yeah.
1
So
hour
we just
later. Yeah, 4 p.m. UTC.
update the
for
reference to
Yeah.
UTC. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So anyone has any objection to moving the meeting 1 hour later? So it will become 5 p.m. for European and 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. Central European, 4 p.m. UK, I think, or GMT, and 4 p.m. UTC in winter. And in summer, it will be 6 p.m. Central European Summertime, 5 p.m. UK GMT, and 4 p.m. UTC.
Just a comment there from me, Emil. I'm thinking of when this daylight savings time occurs and when the switch is. I believe now, at least last time it happened now to the winter time, it was not at the same weekend, both in US and in Europe. So that could be maybe a little confusing. When should we then switch back to the other time again, to the summertime?
We are not switching time. If we stick to UTC, it stays on UTC. People adjust themselves.
Okay, so it will be even later than next summer. Yeah, okay.
Like moving the meeting 1 hour later UTC time zone. So instead of 3 p.m. UTC, it will be 4 p.m. UTC. And in winter, it will be 5 p.m. for us, Emil, in Central Europe, and 6 p.m. in summer.
Yeah. Personally, I would prefer the earlier time, but I'm not the only one, I guess, to say.
Okay, we have 1 - 1.
Yep.
I think it's good to try and encourage some of the Pacific folks as well. I think if 7 a.m. does sound. I mean, I know I'd find 7 a.m. pretty hard, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, maybe it would be good to remind the survey outcome. Actually, when we decided this time zone, it was actually a tie between 3 p.m. UTC and 4 p.m. UTC. And I simply said, let's start with 3 p.m. UTC in case if we have people from Asia Pacific, because if we make it 4 p.m., it is very difficult for them. It's like middle of night or something. But I don't remember having anyone from Asia Pacific joining the SIG meetings. We can, like we can move to 4 p.m. UTC. And if we see anyone from Asia Pacific, then we think about that when that happens. So, okay. Aside from Emil, is there any other person who prefers the earlier time slot?
I think in winter time I wouldn't really care. In summertime, it might get difficult from European perspective.
Yeah, and I don't think we need to have set it in stone. Like, I think we can relook at it in summertime. But I think the problem we need to solve now is, we've got folks who are involved in the discussions, and we've now effectively moved the meeting to a place they can't easily join, and we should fix that.
Yeah, and for winter time, it would be fine with me, absolutely.
Yeah, and I agree with that as well. So let's move it to 1 hour. That's
okay. Fine. Then we revisit this topic before the daylight saving time starts, March or something.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and before that happens, we discuss this again and see what happens. Okay. So Tracy, I hope you can update the invitation. Sorry, but we will soon get rid of Zoom calendar thingy. So
yeah, I won't do it through Zoom. We'll just do it manually, and that should be fine. It'll be good.
Okay, so 16 p.m. UTC, it is from next week or next meeting and onwards. Good, thanks for bringing this up, Tracy. I think it is important we keep the participation like how we have been having before this time zone or thing happened. Any other topic before we move to interoperability white paper? Okay. So let me open the white paper, and before we talk about the chapters, maybe Oliver, you want to talk about your contribution there?
Yeah, maybe very briefly.
Yeah,
we tried to give a short intro into the company and then focus on the topic, which is also relevant for interoperability. From our end, it's a big diversity in the company since we have a pretty long history, half a century, right? And That's basically our main driving factor. That we have people who just came out of university, and on the other side we have people 30 years with the company, and you can do the math and see how acquainted are the people 30 years with the company with maybe all the cloud native paradigms, whereas the others freshly joining may have a harder time to understand what the older people in the company do, right? And therefore, I believe we are one of the biggest Jenkins shops in the world, but there's other things than Jenkins. Therefore, interoperability is a big topic, and we also brought quickly up this open source project. We open sourced, I believe, in 2017, which is one thing which helps us in company internally, also with our partners, customers, to bring some abstraction layer into the game. And I suggested to give some more insight into the project in one of the upcoming meetings.
Yeah.
Here in this round, right? I put it on the backlog list for the agenda.
Let me look at that. So any comments, questions for Oliver?
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm really happy that you could contribute it. One question I was wondering whether it's possible to specify, but is there a way to quantify even in vague terms, like how many different teams you're dealing with or that are doing kind of different things in SAP? Like, is it dozens? Is it hundreds? Is it 20? It just, my mind springs back to a talk Salesforce once did where they sort of talked about having 20 different CI/CD systems, and that kind of gave an instant picture of complexity. So I was just wondering whether there's a way to, not too specific, but give some indication of the scale of the problem from SAP side.
Okay. Yeah, I think we put in hundreds of development teams at the end, right? Therefore, the number of development teams, it's in several hundreds.
Yeah, that's good. I must have missed that. Oh yeah, I can see that. So yeah, no, that'll be a good point to stress. You're talking hundreds.
And for CI/CD systems or CD orchestrators, I would need to see, right? I know we, with one central Jenkins offering, we provision essentially Jenkins with a click of the button, and we have around between 1,500 and 2,000 Jenkins instances live up and running there. And that's just one infrastructure, especially with some cloud focus. But I can see if there's one or the other number which could help as well.
Yeah, if there is something you can share to qualify it, it's just a lot of the conversations we have. I think people are keen to be able to set things in context so they know, like, okay, is this a solution? Like, you know, Fidelity will come and say, okay, we're looking for a solution for 40,000 developers. Is something SAP are doing in the same ballpark, so we can compare approaches?
Yeah, absolutely. Like therefore, we're more than 100,000 employees with having more than 30,000 in the developer.
Yeah. Right. Fatih, maybe that's something we can also qualify in the white paper, so we can talk about like different ends of the spectrum. So SAP is at one end in terms of team sizes, and Go Spot Check is at the other, and it's maybe just a way to provide some context or ways for people to think about what makes a difference to your approach.
Yeah, what are the numbers you would be interested beyond? I think the employees we have, the number teams we have, not exactly specified, but we specified it with hundreds of development teams, right? Any specific other number you would have in mind?
Yeah, those are the typical ones: number of employees, number of teams, and then I think there should be a way to talk about like systems, but I'm not sure I've seen people have a consistent way to talk about.
I guess it's difficult. What I might be able to provide is numbers of products on the price list, which is which is I guess also in the 4-digit range or higher 3-digit range to 4-digit.
Yeah, I think products interesting. Price list, I'm
to,
sure you can keep that.
I don't have it on
Yeah.
top of my head.
And I guess Jenkins instances is one way. I don't know, for cloud native, like with Tecton and Jenkins X, how do people typically qualify the scale they're running at? Any comments on Andreas or James? Andrea or James?
Not sure. You get to think about. I mean, from a Jenkins X point of view, because it's an open source project, it's hard to know even just how many people are actually using Jenkins X. I know that we've seen there were studies before on the Jenkins project, and there were some astronomical numbers, but you don't know. It's very hard to then quantify. It's not your organization that you can kind of keep tabs on who's running the software. So.
Yeah, okay, maybe we just stick with employees and teams. Andrea, did you have something to add?
I mean, one way could be like jobs per hour or jobs per day, but I guess there's also different kind of jobs. Some require different amount of infrastructure, but it gives you an idea of the amount of load you have on the system and the number of users. I mean, it's not.
There's no central system, therefore it's
right.
I do have numbers for certain aspects, right? Like this centrally provisioned Jenkins infrastructure. But also here that's used by many tools, but definitely not all of the many teams, but definitely not all of the teams.
Maybe Jeremy, because Zool is used within open infrastructure, open dev community, maybe as part of your case study, you can perhaps mention number of jobs or number of instances Zool manages for the community, like with thousands of developers and so
on. Yeah, I mean, that's probably a different case study in that case. I was actually hoping to use the Volvo Motors case study, but okay. I guess I could mention other Zool users too. I didn't know how much information you really wanted about specific deployments, because I thought that the scope of this white paper was going to be around interoperability. So
yeah,
I'm not entirely sure what the size of the deployments necessarily has to do with interoperability features, whereas the reason I was going to pick the Volvo Motors use case was because they've got multiple different code hosting systems that they want to be able to have dependencies between changes in Garrett and GitLab, and be able to cross-test between those in the same CI system. So that I could make a bit more of a interoperability case for. I'm not sure what the interoperability angle would be on the open dev use case.
Can it be something like this, Jeremy? Since like Volvo case study would be great because demonstrating interoperability between different SCM tools supported by the CI/CD tool Zool is great. I think we should have that. But as part of that case study, I suppose you will have some intro information about what is Zool. Maybe you can add a sentence or two there while talking about what is Zool, maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, we do have the same sort of paradigm going on in open dev that Volvo is using. We've got, projects that are hosted in our Garrett instance in open dev, but they also have dependencies that are managed by other groups of people in GitHub. And so we have some, CI jobs that we can basically say, I want to test this new feature in my project in Garrett against this pull request that I've proposed in this GitHub project, and be able to confirm that if that pull request lands, then my feature in my project will work the way that I've designed it, and all the CI jobs will pass and everything. And also to not merge my change in my project until the pull request in my dependency in GitHub lands. So I can definitely use that same paradigm in the OpenDev use case. I was trying to steer clear of OpenDev because there's already a somewhat incestuous relationship between the OpenDev hosting environment and Zool, since the Zool project is itself hosted in OpenDev, and that muddies the waters of the use case a bit compared to somebody like Volvo, who is, while they are, developing contributors to the Zool project, they aren't necessarily also having as close a tie to the CI software development as the OpenDev environment maintainers. But if you don't think that that's a problem to try to untangle in the use case, I can include it, sure.
I would +1 to the Volvo use case, and particularly the focus on code hosting systems, because I think it's important. When we talk about interoperability, it's not narrowly focused on pipeline orchestration, but it is everything to do with software delivery. So yeah, I think that's a great case study. And I think with the earlier conversation, I was just trying to put into context the company. So I think you can steer clear from the OpenDev if that makes life easier.
Okay, so Volvo got more votes. So yeah, Jeremy, as I mentioned on IRC, I think end of November is what we are targeting for creative team.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
I'm definitely working to have something well before then.
Thanks a lot. Okay, and I see either James or Kara, you put this is in progress here, so I'm not asking you again because I asked it yesterday during talk meeting. So
that's good. Yeah, it is on its way, promise.
Yeah. So we have Jenkins X Tecton, Captain, Go Spot Check, Ericsson, SAP, and Volvo on its way. And thanks, Trace, for getting us in touch. I've forgotten the name from
Sid from NatWest, yeah.
Yeah, I will follow up with him. I haven't heard him back yet, but I will ping him again and book time with him. So if we get fintech, that would make it even more interesting. Okay, are we happy with the case studies part, with the ones that are inbound?
Yeah, no, I think they're really great. A nice variety of companies and open source projects, and all kind of bringing something new. Was there a spot for the Jenkins and Tecton integration one? Did Vincent?
Jenkins X Tecton, yeah.
No, Jenkins, the Tecton client.
Oh, Vibhav, or
yes.
James, have you had chance to chat with him?
It was a bit of a brief DM we had. Kara was on there as well, where we were kind of, I think there's no, as Tracy said on that thread, there's not too much overlap. So it was the case of they can have their own use case. And I know that they did say that they were going to work on it, but I haven't heard since. Offered some help if they wanted anything. So
okay, what was it exactly? Jenkins and Tecton client, or?
Yeah, I think they've got a Tecton plugin for Jenkins.
Okay, Jenkins Tecton plugin. Okay, that would make good having Jenkins there. So I will let me action myself. So I will ping Vibhav on Slack. Okay.
Thanks, Fatty.
Yeah, thanks for reminder. Plugin. Okay. And that's Cameron was also talking about Spinnaker.
Oh yeah, they should be able to have Spinnaker and Jenkins or Spinnaker
Yeah.
interop story?
Let me Jenkins and Spinnaker. This is heading 2, and I can. I think Cameron was on this paper before. Let me try Cameron. Oh, his name doesn't come up. But I will. Yeah, another action item for on me. I can spam people on Slack. Okay. Sorry. Then I think, yeah, getting these like these 3 project case studies and Volvo case study will make it 4 project case studies and 4 like company case studies, which is kind of good balance between end user and project. Okay, and the other chapters. Okay, this chapter we already agreed we will take something from one of these links, which we can do this offline. We don't need to talk about it and then review it after we choose which one to take. And I think this chapter is tricky, like, and Oliver, thanks for your comment there. Like we need to, as I noted here, we need to clarify integration versus interoperability and what we are actually working with. And then these are the points here is actually taken from the pull request we proposed SIG Interoperability November last year. And these were the items people brought up under the proposal, like pipeline standardization, pipeline integration, pipeline data, and metadata is related to this as well. And events in CI/CD is one of the work streams we have. So these are the topics of interest for the people who is taking part in this SIG. So Oliver, you want to talk about this, what you put here as comment?
Yeah, I saw the pipeline standardization and languages, and I personally believe it's an important aspect. That's something we also see within the company, right? Since due to the high amount of teams, also it's difficult for teams to get into the nitty-gritty details of every single orchestrator DSL, right? And there's what we've been doing is we've been hiding some complexity of the DSL, making it easier to reuse, mainly in the Jenkins case, right? Things which have been discussed with shared libraries and so on, right? That the teams have it much easier to get started, right? But might be a project company specific solution for Jenkins, but for other projects, I believe we are still far further behind for having certain things, right? And having something, at least maybe just a minimum language, minimum DSL, which suits certain use cases, could already beneficial, because I don't think that, from what I see within our company, is that not every team needs all the nitty-gritty details of the individual orchestrators. It's rather task flow, executing this, that, right, without going into specific container definitions and so on.
Yeah, we really like what the Tecton project has been doing around this, around having the kind of standardizing around the DSL, but then people can use that and have reusable tasks, and particularly the catalog. The Tecton catalog is a really nice way to be able to share those kind of those pieces, those chunks almost of a pipeline that you don't want to get into, but somebody else may maintain it, but it just does what it says on the tin, and then you plug that in.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's on a task level so far only, right?
Yeah, exactly. But then, well, with what we've done with Jenkins X is actually combining those and having actual full-on pipelines within the catalog. So using exactly the same catalog approach is just using Tecton all the way down.
Yeah, we've been looking at your version 2 DSL, right?
Oh, ignore that.
I heard that from James as well, but there's a few aspects I really like about it, and what we've been doing also on Jenkins Classic, right? Yeah. Because having a simple way of overriding a stage, adding a task to a stage or a step to a stage, that's what I haven't seen in other areas yet.
I don't know if you managed to. I don't know if you were on the call. Sorry, but there was James Strachan did a bit of a
last week. I was there.
Yeah.
Last
week. Cool.
Yeah, I saw that.
So that's really. I mean, that's coming out. The two JX2. Well, sorry, the JX3 is almost beta within the next 2 weeks probably. But it might be the guides that we've got and the walkthroughs of that are going to be a lot clearer. So I'm hoping. I mean, I've been using it myself, using just vanilla Tecton. And it's actually a lot easier to be able to extend and override those steps using the Tecton principles and DSL. We're certainly finding that, but I think there's still a lot more reuse, and the more people that be able to build up these tasks can really help as well. Having the community and standardization around these, I think, is really going to help. But certainly to be able to, for the extensibility, it seems, and standardization seems a lot better, because I think we got it wrong, if I'm honest, with the trying to put a DSL on top of above Tecton. It's literally abstraction. It's really hard to maintain, and so standardizing just on Tecton, it's just from like an API, I think is a lot cleaner.
Yeah, I can, in this presentation about our Piper project, I can go in a little bit more detail what we've been doing. What we just see is that we centrally extend pipelines, and today teams just get that without doing things, right? Such aspects I've not seen in other areas yet, and that would be very, very interesting.
I'll look forward to that. That'd be really good to understand.
And where I believe we would also be happy to contribute.
Awesome.
Yeah, this interesting set of different approaches in the space. It'll be good to bring folks together. And I know, like Stephen Tarana and the templating engine in Jenkins, they were having some talks with Simon Kagi and the Tecton folks, and I think it'd be great to start to drive all these efforts closer and closer together, so we have some form of integrated or interoperable solution.
Yeah, definitely.
Oliver, are you scheduled to do a talk in this group at some point?
As mentioned before, I put it on the backlog. We don't have a specific date yet, but I put it in the presentation backlog, and
perfect.
Whenever it fits.
Yeah.
So this chapter is kind of, we need to document, like write down what we mean when we say interoperability. And when I was looking for like, if there are other, industries or communities talking about like integration versus interoperability, I found lots of articles from health industry. It seems there is this health transformation happening in US or somewhere, and they are talking a lot about interoperability in that context. And it is funny that they are saying exact same things as we have been discussing here for health industry. So
health.
Health, yeah. So I will put few of the links there so we can look at how they are differentiating between integration and interoperability, which we can, somehow get their like thoughts and combine that with CI/CD stuff to come up with our perspective there. And the next chapter is key consideration, constraints, and concerns. I think this, like the bullet points here, actually could fit well under considerations as well, because like depending on who you are talking to, those people consider interoperability for pipeline standardization or pipeline integration or events and so on. So this could either end up here or stay where it is, these bullet points. And in addition to that, the constraints and concerns is one of the, like, lack of interoperability is one of the constraints, you know, why we can't achieve what we want to achieve with different tools and technologies. So that type of stuff. And if we can't fill the chapter, we can think of not including it, to be honest, like, because there is nothing under it. Anyone wants to comment on this chapter? What are considerations? Okay. So reusable libraries. Yeah, I think Oliver, you also mentioned this, like reusable libraries just 5 minutes ago or something. Such things can go under this without like exact pointer, but we have examples already. Go SCM or Tecton client, which James brought into CDF. We can use those as examples here, and the need to somehow make those libraries visible for everyone's use. So that is something we can highlight there. Events in CI/CD. Thanks to Matthias, Emil, Ravi, and Andreas, and forgotten the name, the other person. But yeah, we have
Andrea.
Yeah. So we have something there. I am thinking if we should have metadata here as well, because like since we start talking about metadata, and it's not the first time we are talking about this, as many mentioned during previous meeting, metadata topic comes up regularly in different contexts across different communities. So we can highlight that. And since in white paper, we are not talking about what we did, we are talking about what we can do and come and help us. So that could be something to get interest.
Yeah, no, I think that would work. I'd be happy to write something to that effect.
Okay.
Yeah, another aspect might be in other, already within other areas, but pipeline configuration, right? And because in the end, what we see is you have, on the one side have a pipeline flow, on the other side you have the configuration for individual steps, for example. And quite often this is mixed within the same DSL, right? And the question is, or what we do is we have the configuration separate. Right? We keep flow on one side, configuration like which images to use for certain step execution and so on separate, which makes the flow easier reusable.
Would you class secrets as that as well? Would you class secrets as something different?
How we started dealing with secrets is that we, as typically done, either injected as environment variables, or we now within the pipeline library, which we have in this Piper project, we directly access Vault from within the steps. That means if we have a step interacting with some security system, some security tool system to upload a report, this step will access directly Vault, retrieve the secrets without having the orchestrator system involved.
I wonder if it's a relevant subject for a paragraph or something around how pipelines deal with secrets. I know Kara's got lots of thoughts around this one as well. But it might be useful to have something, a paragraph or something around there.
I agree.
Yeah, that'd be great having that in trends, and the secret one is a good example.
Can one of you put a heading there, because I failed to catch the heading part. So if you can add a heading there, so we don't forget that.
Yeah, I can do that if you like, or I don't know if anybody. Kara, you were going to say something then.
No, I was just going to say yes. It was a good idea. I'm happy to add to that section very much. Can I ask? It may or may not be irrelevant, relevant to this discussion, but should we have any sort of indication on or discussion in the white paper on looking at the role like standards, but open standards and APIs, and just looking at maybe something around how different definitions of how data is transferred, how that affects, how that affects, I don't know, anything from adoption to like real interoperability to. Is that relevant? Yeah.
Well, say more about the data. I think that's interesting. What do you mean about, like, were those two separate things, the standardized data, or about how data flows through?
Yeah, how the data is flowing. So if you think of, say, standards or open standards, versus private standards, and then how APIs are developed and the choices that are made and how different APIs are developed, do we want to have any discussion on the importance of open standards or?
Yeah, I think like for open standards, for this white paper, it's almost, I think it's enough to say that they don't exist, and that's why we have this whole white paper.
Moving in that direction.
But yeah,
okay.
But then there's lots of trend, like these things, standardized metadata, shared libraries are kind of the steps the industry needs to take before we can even get to the super formalized kind of standards, I think. But
yeah, and adding to that, I will also say that we already have that in the events in CICD section in the document for the events part. So that's one way of dealing with the data, if I understand your reflection right, Kara.
Yeah, good.
But of course, there are other ways to handle it as well.
Yeah, and the API point, I think that's worth calling out. Like we talk about standardized metadata, but are we covering API in the library section, or should we separate that out? That's been a pretty good way for lots of software to drive better interoperability by having kind of de facto APIs that people use. I mean, effectively, that's what Kubernetes is. So I don't know if we're explicitly calling that out, or we need to be.
But we can, if you can comment on it like here somewhere, so we don't drop it, because we remember, like, we decided to have this by end of November. So if we are bringing up new chapters, we need people for those chapters as well. Otherwise, we will continue adding.
Yeah, tag me in that. I think it's a paragraph, and I know Kara's written something in this space that we can probably draw from on the Kubernetes side as an example.
Is it APIs?
APIs. Right. APIs and
APIs there.
And related to that, I was going to ask James and Kara, like something like Lighthouse in Jenkins X, which is, that's an approach to standardize across SCM providers. Which header do you think that would best fit under if we were going to pull it in as an example of new approaches and trends that need to happen?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I know that you've got reusable libraries, but this is more, I guess, components, or I don't know. It goes back to our terminology, I guess. We're talking about components, service, and things. But
could it fall under APIs? Is the basis of how it talks to the SCMs a fixed?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Lighthouse uses the same APIs as Prow, for example. So, and so that might be, I think maybe APIs is a good place, because then you could talk about Lighthouse, you could talk about Prow, and probably other things, anything else that's there. So,
and that's an example of how things have evolved and use the same API and make it easier. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move. I think if we get all these things in, this will be an awesome white paper. So case studies, we already talked about it. The future, the intention was like to talk about what we intend to achieve, and also taking parts from roadmap, because we have some future looking statements within the roadmap. So include some of those things from there. And conclusion is simply, yeah, come join us, call for action.
And I'm happy to throw in some stuff of like future for me is just talking about open source principles and how that lends itself to this kind of collaboration. And I think that's the way we get there.
Okay. So now we have names on most of chapters, so I can take this one because I already mentioned a few references there. The idea, Tracy, you brought up, I'm wondering if anyone is interested to have in our next week or week after next to just, you know, work on these chapters together. Like we can perhaps give 1 week to everyone to fill some text into these chapters, and week after next, during the SIG meeting week, we can have a separate meeting from SIG meeting if it suits everyone, just to get this done.
Yeah, at the very least, I'm happy to meet with you, have a working session and get it through out the door.
Okay, let me suggest this. We can send a mail to mail list and invite anyone who wants to join. And then if anyone wants to join, they can respond to the mail and they can join.
Just so you know, I think the next meeting in that week you're talking about is Thanksgiving week for North America.
26th of November. Oh, is it? Oh, Black Friday is 27th. Yeah, that's why I know.
You checked your calendar. You've got stuff to do that day.
So we are not having anyone from North America for that meeting then.
Yeah, that one you can keep at the earlier time. No one's joining anyway.
Okay, things getting complicated here. Maybe we should end the meeting. Just joking. But yeah, let's chat on Slack and decide what to do. I'm not actioning anyone. Yeah.
That week for me for a working session, or we could even use the normal session if it's going to be quieter and we don't have folks to present.
Working session. Okay. Okay. I think we are getting somewhere for the white paper, which is great. And if we can make this happen before Christmas vacations, like latest mid-December, perhaps, so people can read the white paper during their holidays if they get bored, you know. Wishful thinking. So that was the white paper. And if no one has any other comments, moving to the next topic. So standardized metadata, we don't have James, we don't have Tracy Reagan here. So anyone wants to talk about this topic? Or should we park it until we meet next time? And I have a question, actually. Oh yeah, Kara, please.
I have a question too. Have the standardized metadata meetings been kicked off?
So nothing is there except that HackMD document. And my question is actually related to what you asked, Kara, because you know we have this work stream set up. Maybe we can turn this to a work stream and just let those people, you know, if you want to work with this topic separately, here is your, you know, work stream set up with the meeting thing, and feel free to work.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea.
Okay. So meeting and work stream setup. So apart from those people listed there, it's not limited to only Tracy, Steve, and James. You know, if others have any thoughts on this, just go in and put your thoughts there. You know, it doesn't mean it's only these people who will work on this. Because when we discussed this last meeting, many people were talking about this, and the page is empty. It's surprising. Okay, so we parked the topic. And the next topic is Ortelius, and we don't have Tracy and Steve, so we park this as well. And this will probably happen after Thanksgiving week then, which is 10th of December, assuming both Tracy and Steve from North America or US.
Yes, I think that's correct.
And actually, I wonder if they've been caught out by the time, because isn't Tracy, she's pretty much on the West Coast, isn't she?
Yes, Santa Fe.
Yeah.
So I expect they just assumed it would happen at the same time as last time and didn't see the change.
Okay, so this makes Oliver, your presentation will probably need to wait until New Year, until after New Year, or I can check with you again before this 10th of December meeting to see if they can't make it. I can check with you to see if you can make it, the presentation, and then we shuffle things around. Okay, so that was the last topic. Anyone has any other topic to bring up?
Just a quick one. I just wanted to do an additional shout out for a new special interest group, CDF Spinning, which is around best practices. And Maurizio Salatino is heading that up as chair, and there's going to be a kickoff meeting on Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And so this is kind of taking the Accelerate book as a starting point and sort of saying, how can we help people figure out where they are compared to the industry and what are most people doing versus what are the leading edge people doing, and just mapping that all out so it's much more structured for the industry. So if you do want to get involved with those conversations, yeah, join in the SIG meeting on Monday.
It's on public calendar, yeah, Tracy?
It is.
Yeah, okay. There, Accelerate book.
And yeah, reach out to me if you want me to just add you to the calendar invite to make sure you don't miss it.
Okay. So, anything else? Okay, then. I think today was good. Like we spent good time on the white paper because we haven't been able to do that last few meetings. So that's good to have. And if no one has any other topic to bring up, then I suggest we have the next meeting as usual with whoever can join. So we don't cancel the meeting on November 26th. And if we don't have anything to discuss, we can end the meeting early. And the next time we meet with the larger group will be on December 10th with the new time.
Just to clarify, the time is not changing for the next meeting, but the following.
I think we should change right away because
Right away.
we decided
Okay.
it already. And, you know, it gets complicated if we delay it later. Yeah, at least that's what I think. Okay, thanks a lot, everyone, and have a nice day, evening, and talk to you in 2 weeks or in 4 weeks.
Great.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you, Patty.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.